Hey folks, Craig Ripley here. Welcome to another edition of Living Off the Slab. Alright, so once again for all you cigar fans out there, today I'm going to be smoking this, the La Aroma de Cuba Mi Amor. Really nice, kind of a medium bodied cigar, great flavors, give them a shot. Okay, so now that we've got the cigar lit, got to get the important things out of the way. Let me start off this video by asking you folks a question. And that is, how many of you out there have spent any time and any money on not just putting things on your bike, not just making it prettier, buying new farkles for it and so forth, but how many people have spent money on the most important part of your bike, and that is you, right? The rider. How many have gone out and taken some advanced riding classes? Now I hope in my group of followers that number is pretty high. But I have a feeling that in the general population of bikers out there, the number that have taken an advanced training class is pretty low. And that's unfortunate, because there are about 4,500 bikers who die every year. And about half of those die in single vehicle accidents, primarily because they fail to negotiate a corner. Now, will advanced training solve all that problem? No, it will not. But it sure wouldn't hurt. Now, since I returned to motorcycling about 10 years ago, I've kind of made it a goal for myself to continue educating myself and make myself a better and a safer rider. Every year I try to take some kind of a class, again, to improve my motorcycle skills. You see, for me, I view motorcycling like a sport. Right? Anybody can get in a car nowadays and drive it around, right? Most of them don't have gears to shift. You just kind of get in, it's like sitting in your living room and you just kind of drive it around. You don't need to pay much attention. But on a motorcycle, that just isn't the case. And we all know it takes an amount of skill to ride a motorcycle well, right? There's a lot of people who don't ride them well, but if you do want to ride well, you need to get some training. I mean, after all, if you were wanting to play golf better, you would go to the club pro and you would take some lessons. You would learn how to smooth out your swing, right? So you can get more power in your swing and hit that ball farther. Or you would get some lessons on how to putt better. Well, it's the same thing with motorcycle riding. You want to seek out professionals who have been doing this for quite a while and been very successful at it, and find out what they know so that you can become a better rider. Now, up here in the Northeast, we're very lucky. We have one of the premier motorcycle instructors, if not in the world, at least in the United States. And that is, we have Ken Condon, who lives right out here in the area of the Berkshires, and fortunately, he gives classes. So if you don't know who Ken is, he has written motorcycle safety and proficiency columns, well, probably for like the last 20 years. He did 14 years at Motorcycle Consumer News, and now he is currently writing for Motorcyclist magazine. In addition, Ken has written 2 great books that I personally think should be in the library of every serious motorcyclist. And that is one, Riding in the Zone, which comes with a nice little DVD, as well as this going to really talk to you about how to be a really good, proficient motorcyclist. And Ken's latest book is this one, Motorcycling the Right Way. And this one will take you right through basic motorcycle maintenance, safety checks on your bike, to giving you advanced tips on how to negotiate a corner. So I really like this book in particular. It is written with a great conversational style, and Ken gives a lot of real-world examples where you can go out and apply those right after reading it. Now, a few years back, Ken started his Riding in the Zone classes, where he would take either an individual rider or small groups of riders out, hook them up with a communication system, and give them one-on-one training on how to negotiate corners, the best position to put yourself in to be safe on the motorcycle, and a wide variety of things. But here lately, he's teamed up with the folks from Stayin Safe to really come up with a great program where he hooks you up to a communication system and walks you through the process of how to become a safer, more proficient motorcyclist. The particular class that I took was Ken's 3-day training tour that takes place in Ashfield, Massachusetts, again, out in the Berkshires. And Ken lives right there in the area, so he takes you out and knows all these roads really well, and not only gives you a great training experience, but also a really wonderful time riding some great roads. So for this class, we had 3 students, myself and 2 other guys, and we also had the benefit of Steve Stone from the Stayin Safe program come down to join us. So it was really nice to have him come along. Steve, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. So since this is a 2-day class, included in the fee is a stay at the Inn at Norton Hill, which is right there on Route 116 in Ashfield. The inn was built in 1795, and some parts on the outside look like it, but on the inside they've done it up really nice. It's decorated very nice, it's very comfortable, and we all had a great time there. It was pretty awesome stay. In addition, you get a meal on Saturday night, and normally this would be at Elmer's Restaurant, which works in conjunction with the inn at Norton Hill, but they were closed for renovations, so we got to go up to the lake house right there in Ashfield, and it turned out to be great. We had a wonderful meal, and then they had some live music that we got to stay and listen to. Again, great time. All right, so by now I know you're probably asking, how much does this class cost, right? You got 2 days of training, plus you get meals, you get breakfast, you get a night stay at the inn. How much does all this cost? Well, I'll be honest with you, it's not inexpensive. The class costs $975. But guys, I know some of you might balk at that, right? You say, why would you spend that much money on a training class? Well, guys, we throw more than that into chrome and stuff like that on our motorcycle. Aren't we, the people who are piloting these great bikes, aren't we worth that kind of money? Okay, so let me get into a little bit about how the class works. As I mentioned earlier, Ken has a communication system where he hooks all of the riders in the class up to himself, and then we can hear his instructions as we're taking our tour through the countryside. First, what Ken does is he takes the lead and he goes through whatever lesson it is that we're learning at the particular moment, and he rides and instructs us as he's riding, gives us his example of how to do the maneuvers, how to position yourself in the road, etc. And then along the lines, as we go through the day, each of the riders in the class takes turns out in the lead, and then Ken will follow behind and again give instruction, tell you where to position yourself in the road. Should you be braking right now or not? Should you be leaning the bike into the corner? All the instructions that you need to learn each of the lessons. I found this style of teaching to be excellent, to be honest with you. You know, I've read Ken's books and other books out there about riding and techniques, and I've taken classes where you're in parking lots and things like that, but it really makes a big difference to be out there on the road and have the instructor sit out in front of you giving you the example of how you should be going around a corner. And then you get the chance to get out again yourself and then get the instruction again as you're performing the particular maneuver. Again, I found this to be a great way to learn and just had a good time with it. And one of the things I think that makes this kind of approach work is Ken's style. He's very relaxed, very calm in his teaching approach, not a lot of yelling or screaming. If you did something wrong, he tells you about it, but it's not any, saying, oh, you're an idiot, or any kind of things like that. Just very matter-of-factly, very calmly, tells you the instructions, tells you what you did wrong, and tells you what you can do to improve it. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about what we learned in the class. I'm just going to mention some of the basic concepts here. If I got into detail, the video would get way too long, and maybe I'll go into some of these aspects in separate videos later on. We started off with reviewing a concept called dynamic lane position. And that is basically, we divided the lane up into 3 parts. A position 1 or P1 that's near the center line, P2 that's in the center of the lane, and then P3 that's out on the far right-hand side of the lane. And as we were riding around, whether we're going straight, cresting a hill, whether we're in traffic, or whether we're going around a corner, Ken is instructing us, okay, where do you want to be, P1, P2, or P3 in the lane for the particular circumstances? And this is really a great concept. I mean, we all know that we should, maneuver in the lanes, but so many riders that I see, especially after taking this class, I notice so many riders just sit in one spot in the lane and they stay there. They go around a corner and they stay there, and they go in the straight and they stay there, and they're just in that one track all of the time. Well, in Ken's approach, right, you're moving constantly in the lane to give yourself the best advantage. And I said that's a great concept if you can learn it, right? Going around a corner, for example, if you're out in the outside lane, part of the lane, in that P3 position, you can see farther through the corner. You can see your exit, right? So that way you're not right up against that center line as some big truck or something might be coming around the corner. Keeps you safer, and also in the end you get around the corner faster, right? Because you can see that exit sooner and get back on the gas sooner. Now, the majority of what we worked on during the 2-day class was cornering, because as I mentioned earlier, the biggest reason that people crash, right, at least by themselves, is that they fail to negotiate a corner properly. They fail to have the proper entry speed, right, or they fail to use the proper lines, right, in cornering. So most of what we were talking about is the process of cornering, and they broke it down into these parts. So the basic components of cornering are these. You want to slow for every corner, you want to look into the corner, you want to press, that is, you're going to start the bike to lean, and then as you go through the corner, you want to roll on the power. All right, so why do you want to slow for every corner? Well, as Ken says, because every corner deserves respect. No matter how slight it is, you want to get off the gas a little bit or give it the brakes to slow down so you have the proper entry speed. And what is the proper entry speed? Well, that depends upon the corner. Is it a sharp corner? Are you going downhill? Are you going uphill? All those things play into it. But you always want to make sure that you slow so that you have the proper entry speed so that you can negotiate the corner safely. You can always get back on the gas again, right? But if you're going in too hot, well, then you're in trouble. After we learned these basic steps in cornering, we then started getting into some more details. And one of those was kind of what Ken calls ratchet eyes, right? And that is where you look into a corner and you're not just looking for what's in front of you. You're going to move your eyes up the road and you're going to see where the next corner is. After you get done with this one, is there another one right away, or is there a straightaway coming? Is there a car up ahead of you? You need to know all these things. So you're going to look close in the corner, and then you're going to move your eyes up the road, and you're going to use visual cues like the vanishing point. Does the road come into a point real quickly? Well, you have an idea that there's probably another sharp corner up ahead. If it doesn't, does it stay wide? Then you probably know that it's a more gentle corner. You can look at the angle of trees. You can look at the telephone poles on the road. There are all kinds of things that you can look at to give you clues as to where the road is going next. The last concept that we learned as far as cornering goes was body position. We used all of these things that we already learned, and we applied now our body position, right? We learned to lean into the corner so that we counterbalance the bike, so we can keep the bike straighter up and maintain traction better. I mean, that's what all of that body position is all about, helping you to maintain traction as you're going through the corner. Now, once you apply all of these techniques, once you learn them and apply them together, Ken describes this as kind of a dance with your motorcycle, right? Your motorcycle is your dance partner, and you're the one that's in the lead, and you move your body, and you make your bike do what you want it to do, right? You become much more engaged with the aspects of cycling. And the result is that it's a lot more fun, to be honest with you, and you become much safer because you're paying a lot more attention. Okay, so to sum all this up, was spending this money and taking the time to go out and take this class, was it worth it? And I have to say absolutely 100% yes. You know, I knew some of these concepts that Ken talked about. I read his books and so forth, but getting out there and riding with him and having him really explain to you how to apply these concepts is so beneficial. And I've really been practicing just on my way back and forth to work now. I position myself in the lane. I'm really looking into each corner. I'm paying attention to what's going on around me. I'm really becoming a better rider because of it. Now, you don't have to, ride any particular kind of bike either to learn these concepts and to use them. right? I took the class on my Yamaha, but you can take it on something like this big old bike as well. In fact, it's really beneficial for most people who ride cruisers, because let's be honest, right? Most of us just don't ever think about getting ourselves some training. We just kind of go out and ride around and have a good time, and that's great. But remember that every time you go out there on the road, it is dangerous. So having skills really can help to get you out of problems. So in the long run here, I think, again, as I said, it's all completely worth it. I definitely suggest that if you have the time, that you look Ken up at www.ridinginthezone.com, or look up the Stayin Safe groups at www.stayinsafe.com, because there are groups all over the country that do this kind of training, not just up here in Massachusetts. So please look them up and take one of these classes. It really helps make you a much better rider, a safer rider, and, well, to be honest with you, I think in the long run, you keep practicing this stuff, you'll be a faster rider as well, right? So that's what it's about. Having a good time, but being safe so you can come home to your loved one.